Every year, family forgot my birthday while throwing lavish parties for my brother. This time, Chapter 1. The Sound of Silence. You know that feeling when you're a ghost in your own life. You're there, you move through the rooms, you speak, people even look at you, but you don't truly feel seen. For me, that feeling had a specific date on the calendar. October 17th. My birthday. For 35 years, I'd played my part in the same tired family play. The script never changed. My family, especially my mother, would become consumed with planning my younger brother Jason's birthday extravaganza for November 5th. There would be caterers, themed decorations, a guest list that resembled a small town, and a gift for my parents that was always obscenely expensive, the latest gaming system, a brand new car at 16, a down payment on his condo at 25. And my birthday? It would slip through the cracks of their frantic preparation. The calls would come late in the evening. "Oh, sweetie. Happy birthday. I'm so sorry. It just completely slipped my mind with everything going on for Jason's big day. You understand, don't you?" My father would grunt a belated wish into the phone, the sounds of a football game loud in the background. Jason's text would simply read, "Hey, happy birthday." I understood. For 35 years, I understood. I was the low-maintenance daughter, the reliable one, the one who didn't need a fuss. I told myself it was fine. But this year, my 35th, the silence was different. It wasn't just quiet, it was a vacuum, sucking all the air out of my lungs, all the hope out of my heart. I'd taken the day off work. A foolish, hopeful part of me thought, maybe this year, the milestone year, they'll remember. I made pancakes. I watched the clock. By noon, my phone was a brick of indifference. By 3 p.m., I was crying into a single-serve cupcake I'd bought for myself, the sprinkles bleeding into the frosting like tiny, pathetic tears. And then my phone did ring. My mother's face flashed on the screen. My heart leapt. "See?" I thought, a sob catching in my throat. They remembered. I answered, trying to sound casual. "Hey, Mom." "Lena, honey. Thank God you picked up." Her voice was a familiar whirlwind of stress and excitement. Crisis. Absolute crisis. The bakery for Jason's welcome to his new executive position party next weekend just called. They can't do the chocolate fountain and the 3-tiered cake. I need you to call that place you used for your office party last year. You're so good at this sort of thing. See if they can accommodate us. This is a disaster. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, the last bit of hope inside me shriveling up and dying. She hadn't remembered. She was calling me on my birthday to put me to work for his party. "Mom," I said, my voice flat. "Do you know what today is?" There was a pause. A long, terrifyingly empty pause. I could practically hear the calendar pages flipping in her mind. "Is it Tuesday? Oh, don't tell me I forgot a doctor's appointment." "It's October 17th, Mom." Another pause, thicker this time. Then the performative gasp. "Oh. Oh, Lena." "No." "Your birthday?" "Oh, my darling girl, I am so sorry. My mind is just Swiss cheese with this party for your brother. You know how it is. We'll make it up to you, I promise. Next week, after the party, we'll do a nice dinner." The script. Word for word. "Just forget it, Mom," I whispered. "Don't be like that, sweetie. You're always so understanding. Now, about that bakery, their number is..." I hung up. I didn't slam the phone down. I just gently ended the call, placed the phone on the table, and stared at the wall. The understanding daughter was gone. In her place was a woman who had finally, truly had enough. An hour later, a notification popped up on my laptop. My annual bonus had been deposited. It was a staggering amount, a life-changing sum from a project I had spearheaded and killed myself for. The project my mother had called a distraction during Jason's last job transition. I stared at the number. My pain and anger began to crystallize into something cold, hard, and decisive. They wanted to forget me? Fine. But I wouldn't forget myself. I opened a new browser tab. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. A luxury vacation? A sports car? But none of it felt right. Then I typed it in. Lake houses for sale. I'd always loved the water. It was my peaceful place. Jason hated it. He said it was boring. So, of course, we never went. And there it was. A beautiful, modern A-frame cabin on Crystal Lake, 2 hours away. It had a wide deck overlooking the water, a stone fireplace, and floor-to-ceiling windows. The price was almost exactly my bonus. It was insane. It was impulsive. It was the most sensible thing I had ever felt in my soul. I called the realtor. "I'd like to make an offer," I said, my voice not shaking for the first time all day. A full-price offer. The closing was a whirlwind. I told no one. It was my secret, my rebellion, my therapy. While my family was taste-testing canapés for Jason's party, I was choosing paint samples for my bedroom. While they debated the merits of a jazz trio versus a DJ, I was buying a ridiculously fluffy rug for in front of my new fireplace. I took possession of the keys on a crisp Tuesday morning. I drove up alone. I walked through the empty, sun-drenched rooms, the keys cold in my hand. The silence here was different. It wasn't the silence of neglect. It was the silence of peace. It was mine. I spent the day there, sitting on the deck, listening to the loons call across the water. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt powerful. Jason's party was on Saturday. I dressed in a simple, elegant black dress. I did my hair and makeup. I looked like I was going to a funeral, and in a way, I was going to bury the ghost I had been. The party was in full swing at my parents' house. A jazz trio was playing. Waiters circulated with silver trays of those very canapés. The entire downstairs was a sea of people fawning over Jason, who was holding court by the fireplace, basking in the glow of his own magnificence. My mother spotted me first, fluttering over in a silk dress. "Lena, you're here. Thank goodness. Can you be a dear and check on the ice situation in the bar? I think we're running low." I didn't move. I just smiled. "The ice looks fine, Mom. The party looks wonderful." She blinked, thrown off by my lack of immediate compliance.
"Oh, well, good."
She leaned in. "Did you see the watch Mom and Dad got him? It's a Rolex." She said it in a hushed, reverent tone. "Lovely," I said, my smile not wavering. I circulated. I accepted a glass of champagne. I nodded and smiled at relatives I hadn't seen in years, all of whom were eager to tell me about Jason's latest triumph.
No one asked about me.
No one mentioned my birthday. It was as if the last week had never happened. Then came the cake. It was a monstrous, 4-tiered thing, iced in navy blue and silver, with a fondant sculpture of a briefcase on top. Everyone gathered around as Jason made a smug little speech about climbing the ladder of success. My parents beamed, their eyes shining with pride. As the knife was about to cut the cake, my mother did her thing. She froze. Her hand flew to her chest. Oh, Lena." Her voice carried over the crowd. All eyes swung to me. I saw the familiar looks, the mild pity, the anticipation of my gentle, understanding smile. "Your birthday. It was last week. We were all so busy with this. I'm so sorry, darling." The room was quiet for a beat. Jason chuckled.
"Whoops.
"Happy belated, sis." This was it. The moment. I took a slow sip of my champagne, letting the silence stretch just a second too long. The smile I gave her was wide and genuine, which seemed to confuse everyone. "It's perfectly all right, Mother," I said, my voice clear and carrying. "Please don't give it another thought." "Really?" The relief on her face was instant.
"See?
Good old, reliable Lena. Oh, you're such a good sport. We'll make it up to you, I promise." "That's not necessary," I said, my tone sweet but firm. "I already celebrated." Jason, mouth full of the first piece of cake, mumbled. "Yeah? Got yourself a nice bottle of wine." A few people tittered. I reached into my small clutch purse and pulled out my phone. My heart was hammering, but not with fear. With anticipation. I'd prepared for this. I had a photo album ready to go. Pictures of the cabin at sunset, the key in my hand, the view from the deck with my morning coffee, the empty living room waiting for memories. I opened my social media app. I created a new post. I selected the 9 best photos. And in the caption, I wrote, "A gift from me to myself. Happy 35th. Cheers to new beginnings at my lake house retreat. Hashtag self-love, hashtag my house, hashtag Crystal Lake." I took a deep breath and hit share. Then I held my phone up, screen facing out, and turned in a slow circle so everyone could see. "Actually, Jason," I said, my voice now laced with a cool, unshakable confidence, "I used my annual bonus to buy a house. I closed on it last week." The reaction was not slow. It was instant.
And it was shocking.
My mother's champagne flute slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. The sound was like a gunshot in the sudden, dead silence. My father's jovial, red-faced expression morphed into one of pure, uncomprehending shock. "You bought a what?" he boomed, not as a question, but as an accusation. Jason stopped chewing. He stepped closer, squinting at the screen, his face hardening. "You did what? You bought a lake house? With your bonus? What the hell, Lena? Why wouldn't you talk to Dad first? That's a huge financial decision. That money should have been invested." The chorus of family voices rose, not in celebration, but in a bewildered, offended uproar. "A lake house? By yourself? How could you be so selfish? Why do you need a whole house? Where is it? How much was it?" Their questions were daggers, each one meant to poke holes in my joy, to put me back in my place. My aunt shook her head. "It must be so lonely out there all by yourself," she said, her voice dripping with faux concern. My phone, still in my hand, began to vibrate incessantly.
Ding, ding, ding.
Notifications flooded the screen, not from the people in this room, but from my friends, my coworkers, my real world. Their comments were a stark contrast. "Yes, girl. Happy birthday, this is iconic. So proud of you." The dissonance was breathtaking. The world was applauding me while my own family was holding an inquisition. I let them splutter for a moment longer, let them marinate in their own shock and jealousy. I put my phone away and looked directly at my mother, whose face was pale with something that looked like betrayal. "It's on Crystal Lake," I said, answering the only question that mattered. "It's beautiful. And it's mine." I finished my champagne and set the empty glass on a passing waiter's tray. "The cake looks delicious, Jason. Congratulations on the promotion." And with that, I turned my back on the stunned silence and walked out of the party. I didn't slam the door. I closed it quietly, firmly, behind me, leaving the noise of their disbelief behind. The fallout was swift and came in waves. The first wave was anger. My phone blew up with calls and texts the entire drive home. My father's messages were about financial imprudence and the volatility of the real estate market. Jason's were laced with insults about my need for attention and how I'd ruined his big day. My mother's were guilt-tripping masterpieces. "How could you do this to us? We're your family, we should have been included. I can't believe you'd be so secretive and spiteful." The second wave, which came a few days later, was manipulation. My mother called, her voice syrupy sweet. "We've been talking, darling. That lake house is really too much for just one person. But it would be a wonderful vacation home for the whole family. Jason's already talking about using it for fishing trips. We could all chip in." It was a naked attempt to co-opt my victory, to turn my sanctuary into just another resource for Jason. I didn't engage. I didn't justify. I simply repeated, "It's not for the family. It's for me." The third wave was silence. They stopped calling.
The family group chat went dead.
It was their final weapon, the withdrawal of their presence, which they assumed would be a punishment. But for the first time, the silence felt like a gift. I spent my weekends at the lake house. I painted the bedroom a calming sage green. I learned how to build a fire. I bought a kayak and spent hours on the water, the only sound the dip of the paddle and the cry of the eagles. I made friends with the elderly couple next door. I read books. I breathed. The peace was profound. It was the peace of no longer waiting for a phone call that would never come. The peace of no longer measuring my worth by their attention. A month after the party, on a cold, brilliant Saturday in November, I was splitting logs out back when I heard a car door shut. I looked up, expecting my neighbor. It was my parents. They stood by their Lexus, looking uncertain and out of place in their designer winter coats. They looked smaller somehow. I put down the maul and walked over, wiping my hands on my jeans.
Mom.
Dad, this is a surprise. We were in the area, my father said, though the nearest town was 20 minutes away. It was a lie, and we all knew it. We just wanted to see it, my mother said, her eyes scanning the cabin, the woods, the lake beyond. Her expression was unreadable.
I didn't invite them in.
Not yet. I just waited. My father scuffed his shoe in the gravel. It's very remote. It is, I agreed. The silence stretched. My mother hugged herself against the chill. It's very quiet. It is, I said again. They had run out of small talk. The scripts they relied on were useless here. Finally, my mother looked at me, really looked at me. She saw the calluses on my hands, the healthy color in my cheeks from hours spent outdoors, the calm certainty in my eyes that hadn't been there before. You look happy, Lena, she said, and it sounded like an accusation and a confession all at once. I am, I said simply. My father cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. Perhaps we with Jason, he couldn't seem to find the words. He just gestured vaguely, a helpless motion that encompassed a lifetime of imbalance. And in that moment, I didn't see the powerful patriarch or the flawless socialite. I saw two aging people who had followed a script for so long they didn't know how to improvise. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt a distant, almost clinical sense of pity. You can come in if you like, I said. I can make coffee. I gave them a brief tour. I didn't apologize for the unpacked boxes or the simple furniture. I showed them the view from the deck. They were quiet, taking it all in. They didn't stay long. As they were leaving, my mother paused at the car door. She didn't apologize. That was too much. But she said something else. It's a very solid house, Lena, she said. It feels strong. It was the closest she would ever come to acknowledging my strength. To acknowledging me. I nodded. It does. They drove away. I stood there and watched their car disappear down the pine-lined road. The quiet of the lake settled back around me, but it was no longer the quiet of loneliness they had always assigned to me. It was my quiet. It was full of the sound of the wind and the water and my own steady heartbeat. I had gone to that party a month ago hoping for a birthday wish. I hadn't gotten it. Instead, I had given myself so much more. I had given myself a home. Not just the beautiful A-frame on Crystal Lake, but a home within myself. A place where I was always welcome, always celebrated, and never, ever forgotten.